everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar today. We're going to just get started now. My name is Tina Gill, and I'm a practice area consultant at LexisNexis Canada. And I'm a lawyer myself, and I do practice family law and real estate. And I have the pleasure to have the following speakers attend with us today. Okay, we have Nick Tennant from Cohen and Carter, who's a solo practitioner. He practices litigation law, construction, business law, real estate, and construction. We also have Robbie Seacon from Sabio Law, a small law firm practicing litigation related to municipal law, employment law, civil and commercial litigation. And their third speaker is Pawandeep Kaur Johal from Sunder Law Professional Corp, who's also a solo practitioner practicing immigration law and real estate law. So we're going to get started off with Nick. I think he'll be the first speaker, and he's going to discuss the topics such as automating, in your daily legal life in drafting pleadings, automating the intake process, and such as video recordings and screen recordings and so forth. So Nick, I'll give you the floor for now.
Great, thank you, Tina. Hi, everybody. So today I'll be talking about three topics, and these are three different things that help to improve my workflow and efficiency. So as a lawyer, let me just fix my video here. So as I mentioned, these are three things that help to improve my workflow and efficiency. As a lawyer, you have to do a lot of stuff. Whether you're a solo lawyer or working in a big firm, you have to take care of billings, managing staff, working with clients, and the list goes on. So your time is precious, and how do you make the most of your time? So these are three things that help me and might also help you in your practice. So the first topic I want to talk about is using AI, especially for litigation. Now, I have not used the Lexis Plus AI software. I've only used AI websites that are not specific to the legal industry. So these are just general AI websites. My experience is that they're pretty good at preparing first drafts of documents, such as pleadings and litigation. For example, you can write a fact pattern, and the AI can produce your statement of claim. For me, it's always the most difficult to get started from a blank page. So having the AI produce a first draft is really great to get the ball rolling. Now, the AI websites I have used are not perfect. You definitely cannot 100% rely on them. Some issues that I have seen are the following. The AI sometimes hallucinates. It gives you the wrong section of a statute, which can of course be very problematic. So for example, it would say under Section 35 of the Trustee Act, the trustee has a duty to account for the money they're holding in trust. And then when you actually check the Trustee Act, it's Section 19, for example. So you have to be careful about that. Make sure to check all the references. It sometimes misses things. For example, in a statement of claim, it might include a claim for breach of fiduciary duty, but the AI might not include a claim for breach of trust, which would also apply. So you have to watch out for that. Lastly, it just words things in a weird way sometimes. So you have to do some editing to make the statement of claim flow better. However, the general AI tools out there, in my opinion, are pretty good in producing a first draft, which you will then have to, of course, review and modify as needed. Okay, so the second thing I find very useful in my practice to optimize my time is pre-recorded videos. And what this means is there's some websites out there that allow you to record a video, which then gets uploaded automatically to the website so you can share it with others. I find this is great in two ways. Firstly, it's great for training new staff. So as a solo or small law firm, you might be swamped and you need to hire someone to get the help to help you immediately. However, the big problem there is that even if this new hire is terrific and super experienced, they have no idea how your specific firm works. So now you're swamped with work and you have to train someone on top of that. Not good. For example, you have to teach this new person where to save documents, how to open a new matter, how to send a fax, and the list goes on. Instead of having to meet with a new hire one-on-one to train them, what I do is I created training videos by recording my screen and showing how something is done and also narrating what I'm doing, sort of like a step-by-step instructional video. For example, how to open a new matter. You click here, you go there, you type this, and so on. And I would show on my screen what I'm doing. I find these pre-recorded videos work incredibly well for a few reasons. The first reason is that staff can actually rewind them, because it's a video, of course, so they can rewatch something if they didn't understand it. Whereas before, when we were doing the in-person training, the new staff might be shy to ask a question if they didn't catch something. I found new staff would sometimes just nod along, but actually they were not really absorbing the training. They would have many questions after the training that were already covered in the training. Number two, I find staff can revisit the training videos in the future if they forget how to do something. So essentially, you can retake the training at any time. And lastly, of course, it requires none of your time to train someone. It's all pre-recorded. So it's way better than what we were doing previously, which was meeting with new staff one-on-one and showing them where to click and what to do. The new staff would write down notes on a piece of paper perhaps, and then have many questions after the training because they forget where to click or their notes were not that great. With the pre-recorded videos, staff are able to start and be productive, usually even on their first day, and it requires none of my time or my staff's time to train them. And also the new staff usually have very few questions once they watch the pre-recorded videos. So I found this to be phenomenal, and it's really helped with bringing new staff up to speed when they join my firm. The next reason I find this useful is that it helps with explaining documents to clients. So for example, maybe the client and I have already met and reviewed a document that I have drafted, for example, a statement of claim, and the client suggested some changes. I would then go off and make those changes and track the changes. But also I would make a short video to explain what has changed and why I have made those changes. The video saves the hassle of doing an extra meeting for the client. Right now, I just use it to replace small, short meetings for relatively minor things. Quick stuff you need to explain to the client that is not too complicated. And so far, clients really like it. For example, I have one client that really loves it because he's a busy guy, and this saves him time. He said he's never seen anything like this and was super impressed. So yeah, I really find those pre-recorded videos super useful for training staff or explaining quick things to clients instead of doing a meeting. And the last topic I want to talk about is my intake process for prospective clients. And prospective clients, what I mean by that is leads or people that are inquiring about my services but have not retained me yet. So I require that all prospective clients fill out an intake form. I don't talk to anyone on the phone until they have first filled out the form. And the purpose of the form is to vet clients to see if they might be suitable for us and if we might be suitable for them. Before this form, I would take all of the calls and I would determine on the call if the client was right for us. Sometimes the client might be on the phone with me for 30 to 45 minutes, even an hour, because I felt the conversation was going well and I wanted to press them further by talking about their issue and explaining the law. However, I found many of these clients were just looking for free advice, or for whatever reason, they decided not to proceed with me. In general, I found these long initial conversations to be a waste of time often. Or sometimes the clients would ask me at the end of this very long conversation if I can do the work pro bono or on contingency, which we don't do. So now in the intake form, which all my prospective clients have to fill out, we ask a few things. Number one, we ask for a short description of the issue. And this helps to determine if it's an area of law we can assist them with. For example, we don't do family law, and sometimes it's a family law issue. And it also helps us prepare for the call if we decide this is a client that we need to hop on a call with. Number two, we ask how much roughly they're being sued for or want to sue for. And this is because we don't take on small claims court matters. Also, sometimes I get gigantic matters, maybe for 5-10 million, and I do not take those on either at this time. Thirdly, we also inform the client in this form that litigation can be expensive, and we ask if they have a certain amount of money to fund their litigation. This is because some clients, as I mentioned, want pro bono or contingency fees, or they want some low fixed fee, and we do not offer any of those. We simply charge hourly and do not offer fixed fees. If the client is potentially a good fit, what we do is we give them a call and we try to keep the call short, usually between 15 to 30 minutes. And we do not solve their problems on the call. We simply identify the issues or some of the issues and talk about potential solutions in general. We do not give them legal advice on this initial call. We let them speak and vent because they're usually upset and frustrated, so it's good to let the client talk. But if they start giving too many details, which happens often, we clarify that they can provide the specific nitty-gritty details once we're retained, and that we can talk on a high level for now. And the goal of this initial call is to build trust. The client essentially wants to know, if I retain Nick, I know Nick can help me with my issue. Right off the bat, we tell the clients the purpose of the call is to determine if we're a good fit for them and if they're a good fit for us. If the client says they want to hire me, I do not open a file until I have the retainer money. Previously, I would finalize the retainer letter and then send them a kickoff email with things I need, and one of those things would be the retainer money. However, I found there are some clients who are super eager on the phone, but then they don't follow through. They would insist, yes, I want to hire you, let's get started right away, let me know how to send the retainer money, and I would never hear from them again. So now I do the following. I send a simple email regarding my hourly rate and upfront retainer amount, and if they could please confirm they would like to proceed. I also include a generic draft retainer letter. It doesn't have the client's name or the matter number or anything specific like that. I finalize the retainer letter and send it out for signatures only once I have the retainer funds. Therefore, the retainer money always comes first because I find that's the only way in my experience to really know a client is serious. Some clients will ask to meet me in person after the initial call and before they give me the retainer money. And I always agree to this. At first, I was hesitant to meet the clients for free after we've already spoken on the phone because it's more of my time that I'm giving away for free. However, I find this is simply necessary in the process of building trust with the client. And so for all the clients that have met me in person have hired me. So if a client asks you after that initial call, if you can meet in person, in my experience, it is wise to do so. So yeah, that's all I have. I hope you found these 3 tips useful.
Thank you so much, Nick. I just have a really quick question for you. I know you had mentioned, a couple of different issues when using AI technology. Would you say it's appropriate for you perhaps to mention that, LexisNexis AI tool is more grounded in the legal content versus using a non-legal AI product?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So would you say that, you mentioned you use AI non-legal related
Yeah.
product? Would you say that if you say, for example, LexisNexis AI tool, which is a legal related product, would you say it would be more beneficial versus using a non-legal product for AI?
Yeah, probably so. I'm interested in trying Lexis Plus AI. I haven't had a chance to use it, but exactly, I think having used the general AI tools out there, I'm super interested to know how specific AI tools specific to the legal industry work. So yeah, I'd be very interested to try
Yeah.
Lexis Plus AI.
We'll definitely see the
Yes.
difference for sure with that. And I really love the fact that you mentioned, automating your intake process. I feel like that's very beneficial for solo practitioners and small law lawyers, especially when you're doing everything, yourself. It does save a lot of time, finding the right client, the right fit. And I also do like how you mentioned the screen recording as well, like, making the videos, pre-populated so you have it on hand. You can like send the link for them to watch. So those are really great topics. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thanks so much, Tina.
No problem. So now I'm going to pass it over to Robbie Seacon. He's going to actually discuss a couple of different things related to AI as well. How you can automate the process and speed up things while using AI technology. He also was going to use a real life example of using Lexis Plus AI for judicial decisions being made. So he will provide you with a real life example that he went through himself. And also how AI technology relates to professionalism and compliance and drafting assistance. So go ahead, Robbie. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here to talk about how to leverage AI for small law firms and solo practitioners. And thank you, Tina and LexisNexis Canada for hosting. I want to start by discussing the basic ways I use AI tools online to help automate my daily processes. In a small law firm, we don't have the luxury of time. So I see this as a way to streamline the often time-consuming email process. I use AI for email correspondence, but I always remember never to input any confidential information. As lawyers, every document we create, including emails, is a record that can be relied upon at any time. This means we can spend endless hours making sure we get the right context, tone, and grammar. However, since these emails can be accessed later by anyone, it's essential that I get them right the first time. We're always racing against time with competing interests, but we need to ensure we comply with our professional obligations to multiple parties, like our clients, opposing counsel, and the courts. Depending on the situation, I'll provide AI with a rough draft of what I'm looking for in terms of content. I'll then prompt it with specific aims like, here's an email I'm drafting to opposing counsel. Am I getting my point across? Am I achieving the urgency I want? AI helps refine the message and checks for grammar. It gives me the confidence that I'm staying on par or even ahead when corresponding with bigger law firms. Another point is that as a small law firm, we may not always have an assistant. So I use AI as my assistant, but not as a replacement for the duties of a lawyer. It's there to enhance the work I've already done. In my growing practice, I often encounter research questions that I need to find answers to quickly. That's why I love using Lexis AI Plus. It lets me ask general legal questions and gives me all the relevant case law, statutes, and commentary in a flash. Interestingly, I never planned on becoming an employment lawyer or adding it to the different fields that I'm in. However, being at a smaller firm, I have to stay adaptable and grow into different fields while ensuring I remain competent. Lexis AI Plus gives me the confidence to find the answers quickly, which ensures I'm providing my clients the best advice possible. When conducting legal research, Lexis AI Plus helps me deal with opposing counsel. It gives me the same big resources that the bigger firms might have with multiple lawyers. I have several files now where I'm the sole lawyer going against two senior lawyers on the other side. But with Lexis AI Plus, I'm able to keep up with them and thrive. I can use Lexis AI Plus questions in real time as well. For example, I can present a client situation and ask for potential remedies, and it will provide me with tailored insights. It can help me evaluate the direction of a case, whether it's worth settling or whether we should go to trial. And as Tina alluded to, I had a real life example of how I used AI to go into a motion. So the night before a recent motion, I learned who the judge would be. I entered several of the judge's past decisions into AI. Then I took the main arguments from my case and the other side's, and I asked AI how this judge might decide on the motion. The predictions were almost word for word with what the judge actually said. I even asked AI for a list of 10 questions the judge might ask, and out of those 10, the judge actually asked about 5, which allowed me to be thoroughly prepared and predict the outcome of the motion. And of course, as we integrate AI into our practices, professionalism and compliance are crucial. We have a duty to ensure that our use of these tools align with the standards set by the Law Society and our courts. Finally, I want to highlight the drafting capabilities of LexisNexis. I can draft memos, letters, and pleadings and plug them into the drafting portion of the platform. It provides me with all the relevant case law for each paragraph, saving me time and ensuring I don't miss anything crucial. In conclusion, embracing AI isn't just about keeping up with the bigger firms, it's about leading in the future of law. Let's harness these tools to enhance our practices and provide the best possible service to our clients. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robbie. Really love that real life example that you mentioned with the judicial decisions. I know you briefly mentioned, what you did and how you use Lexis Plus AI to plug in the questions and so forth. If you don't mind, just a brief, what was the outcome when you kind of went through the motion in terms of presenting your argument?
So no, when I saw the previous judgments of the judge, and even though it was for a civil motion, I was able to plug in the language from his decisions from all different courts, including criminal. So AI, at the end of the day, it's machine learning. So I controlled what I was inputting for AI to learn. So I asked it critical questions of how, based on these situations and based on his past decisions, how he would rule in the situation. And going into this motion, we thought we were on the losing end, but I was able to harness the power of AI to actually see how he would actually rule in those favors and actually alter my arguments to curtail to the decision that we thought AI might have predicted. So again, instead of losing, we were able to stay and we're still reserved that decision. So we gave the judge something to think about when we thought we were on the losing end of it.
No, I think that's actually a really great way to use the tool itself when it comes to Lexis Plus AI, in terms of you have the experience, you've used it yourself firsthand, and I feel like the way you use it is actually the appropriate way to use it. Now I have another question for you. Actually, we did get from one of the attendees, and you already did kind of discuss how you use it as an assistant. Are you able to give another example of how you use AI as an assistant right now, your Lexis Plus AI tool?
Yeah, so obviously we have our calendars, but as lawyers, we have many competing interests at all times. We could have an emergency motion come in. We can have an emergency client come in. So I use my schedule and these competing interests, and I actually just input it into AI to give me the priorities. So what is pressing, what needs to be done, and what I need to shift into the future. So AI is actually able to give me a list in real time that I might need from an assistant. So at all times, I just plug these parameters into AI to give me that input that I need.
And also, as you mentioned, you use it for drafting materials and so forth, and correspondences. And you mentioned that you use Lexis Plus AI as an assistant in that term, like where sometimes you have an assistant that would help do all that type of drafting, but now you have your Lexis Plus AI that's going to help you, that helps assist you with that as well. Is that correct? Is that
Yeah,
fair to
that's correct. So again, I mentioned that I'm moving into other areas of law. So I'm actually able to input these drafts into Lexis AI Plus, and it will actually give me the parts that I might be missing. So I might be missing a key component that I might be missing in the law, and it'll actually give that back to me. So where I might have another lawyer being able to look at this, I'm able to have maybe even 10 lawyers in the room when I input this into the platform.
No, that's really that. No, that's all key to to AI in general, like the technology. It's here to assist us with our practice, so we can save more time and use that time on other matters that we have to focus on, or even if you want to work-life family balance, it will definitely assist with that, give you back more hours and time. I actually have a question for both Nick and Robbie. What would you say in terms of, like, in your experience and or what you see out there, what the potential time and cost savings that solo practitioners and small law firms can achieve by leveraging legal tech for automating everyday legal tasks? And Nick, if you want to go ahead, you can speak first, and then Robbie, doesn't matter.
Sure, I'll go first. The question was about legal tech in general or AI
Yeah, so
specific?
legal tech and AI, so like both that, yeah.
And to what extent it can automate routine tasks? Was that the question?
Yeah, like how do you feel that it can actually save, potential time and cost savings, like for solo practitioners and small law firms? So in terms of
Yeah,
when you're doing the work, the hourly, time hours you spend on a file, how much time you think you save and so forth.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's huge. I don't think it's going to replace lawyers. There's still a lot of critical thinking involved. But as I mentioned in my talk earlier, it's for producing documents like a statement of claim. It's great for a first draft. So it's like an artisan student, like it produces, something, but it could be missing some stuff or will have to be polished. So it's a great start. And again, I've only used the general tools. I've not used lawyer-specific AI like Lexis Plus AI. But I think it's huge right now, and it will only get better. And there's also other ways I use it. I just didn't want to speak too much. I didn't want my speech to be too long, but you can use it also to write emails. I have to write like a holiday email, and I'll scratch my head how to do it. And yeah, it was great for that. So it can be used for many things. So it's only going to get better. So I think it's huge in terms of how it can help you. And it's a huge tool. And I think lawyers will be using it more and more. I think we're in the very early stages, but it'll probably be something that everybody's using in the future, in my opinion.
100%. I feel like right now that is where the legal tech world is going to go now, where all lawyers need to be up to date with the legal tech. Just when COVID happened, everything changed. I personally feel like in good ways though, because there's a lot of things that we can save time on, right? Versus stuff that we're working that takes longer. And sometimes you can't even bill the client all the work that you've done when it comes to research or drafting. So there's a lot of non-billable hour work sometimes that's created. I'm sure both you can say that through experience. And I feel like this legal tech, not technology, will help assist by saving that, non-billable time and using it towards billable work or other files you may want to work on, or other activities in life. So
I want to mention one more thing, Tina. Also, I use it to avoid really tedious tasks. So, for example, in litigation, I have my clients prepare a table of the events. So, in one column, it would be the dates, and the other would be the event that happened. And you can literally just drop that into the AI, and it will produce the paragraphs for the statement of claim explaining what happened. So it's really great for that, instead of going through the tedious task of you typing in what happened and improving the client's wording. the AI kind of just puts it all in nice paragraphs and with a nice flow to it, and you just edit it and improve it a little.
Thank you so much for that, Nick. Robbie, did you want to mention anything for that question?
Yeah, so in a small firm, time is money. But as I mentioned before, we have previous competing interest, which is being confident and giving your clients the service that they deserve. But I don't have 2 or 3 days to research a research question. That's why the Lexis AI Plus platform really helps me to find the answer very quickly and actually be confident that I'm providing the right legal advice to my clients. So again, I can't build them for 6, 7 hours trying to do the research, but I might be able to find that answer within an hour or two. And instead of wasting another 6 hours researching, I could use that time to actually be making money for our firm. So again, we don't have the endless budget that these bigger law firms might have, but the AI gives us the platform to get to the answer much quicker.
Thank you so much. We have a lot of questions coming in right now. Another question I have is, how can legal tech solutions help solo practitioners and small law firms stay competitive and provide better client service?
So again, as I mentioned earlier, that the Lexis AI gives you the answers very quickly, and it gives you the confidence to actually go against these bigger law firms. So again, sometimes I'm the sole practitioner going against 2 senior lawyers, but I know whatever is coming in, I can analyze that data, do the research, and give a response and be confident, because anything that comes back again from opposing counsel, I know I've done my job because they've come back with more questions or I've given them something to think about. So I feel very confident going against the bigger law firms by utilizing AI platforms.
Sorry, I was just on mute there for a second. 100%, I do agree with you, Robbie. I do feel like it does help leverage, solo practitioners and small law firms, because, bigger law firms, they have the resources. Not everyone in small law and solo practitioners are going to have that. So for sure, Lexis Plus AI is an example, and AI in general will help assist with that, time saving, and also making sure you perfect the client skills and, provide. So if you're working on a file, make sure, with the timing, you're able to provide a response in a timely manner on top of that. So I see what your answer is there. Nick, did you have anything to say or add to that?
Well, I think legal tech in general is very important. We use lots of tools, so that's a big conversation. In terms of AI, it definitely makes you competitive because you can provide a faster service. That's one thing. Clients sometimes want things done quickly. With AI, you can produce things faster, get back them faster. Obviously, probably better quality because sometimes the AI can put stuff that you didn't think of. So I think definitely AI improves the client experience, the client service. It also cuts down on the cost potentially because, like I mentioned with my example with the table, the narrative, the timetable of the events, that would take a long time for me or a staff member to go in and start typing everything into paragraphs and improving the grammar and things like that. Whereas the AI does it essentially instantaneously and cuts down our work. So AI specifically, of course, improves the client experience. But I think legal tech in general, of course, is super valuable. We use cloud storage, for example. We can easily share big files with clients. There's just so much legal tech in general that's useful, but AI specifically as well is obviously super useful to improve the client experience.
Thank you so much for that, Nick. So we have, like I said, we have a couple of more questions coming in, and there's actually a question here that says, do either Nick or Robbie think using AI is better than using a precedent, especially if the facts and issues are similar to something you had in a past file?
Robbie, do you want to go first?
Sure. So that it's a very interesting question, because what I'm noticing now is by using AI, I'm actually disrupting the flow of how other law firms might be dealing with each other. So there might be big firms dealing with other big firms, but I'm actually able to leverage AI to disrupt that flow. So I might be able to find something that isn't used typically. And so again, these law firms might get into a rut and it's just, okay, here's the response and here's the counter response, but I'm actually able to disrupt it. So obviously, yes, we have to go based on the precedent, but I'm also not scared to disrupt the flow of things. So that's what I've been using AI to do, is to actually disrupt these precedents and actually maybe even make new case law in some of my files.
And Nick, sorry, I don't know if you want to add anything to that as well.
Yeah, so I'll present my view. I agree with Robbie there that it might produce things you didn't expect, or give you a new angle or some new arguments. So even if you have a precedent, even if your case at hand matches maybe a case you've done previously, I think it's easy to get overly optimistic and overly confident to say, oh, I've done this before, it's the same one. Whereas there could be a twist or something that because you're overconfident or optimistic and you're letting your guard down, you're not catching. So I think even if you have a similar case, it might be worth the time. I mean, it takes seconds, right? Or minutes. It's very quick to put something in the AI to check, what it would produce. And maybe your precedent's not perfect, right? Maybe your precedent was successful. It was a good precedent, but maybe it can be done better, right? So I think even if you have a good precedent, it's still worthwhile using the AI. For me, it's just one of the tools. Your precedent's a tool, the AI is a tool. You would read cases. It's just one of the tools. So I would still use it if I had a precedent. Maybe not as much, but I would still use it.
And to add to what Nick, you just mentioned as well, and Robbie, I feel like that personally, yes, if you have your precedent, you use it many times. The only thing is sometimes you may not know if there's a new statutory act that came into place, or there might be another case law that's out there that is not in your previous precedent. So this way you can stay up to date with the current law and what is out there to basically maybe add to what your previous precedent had. And this way you're kept up to date with the current case law and statutory legislation as well. So you're not missing out on that. So I think those are great points brought up by both of you. Now, another question we have here, and this is more so, Robbie, you mentioned this about being compliant as a lawyer, and Nick, you mentioned this as well too, making sure you review your work. What can you say about, using AI and with respect to Law Society, and to make sure that, you're following everything you're supposed to while being a lawyer, to make sure, you're following all the rules? What kind of advice, like not advice, but what through your experience, what can you say that is related to that? Or the responsibility you have as a lawyer?
So yes, I did touch on that earlier. And again, any work we do is a reflection of our professionalism to our clients, to the Law Society, to the courts, and these are always competing interests. So anytime I draft anything, I always think about how this affects my professionalism, how this could come back to the client. So I always double check whether I need to put it into the drafting software in Lexis AI Plus. And I could have a simple paragraph, and Lexis AI Plus will analyze that paragraph and give me all the relevant case law for and against that paragraph. And it will pick up all the precedents and the current case law. So I'll be able to actually, in real time, see if I'm in compliance with recent case law or professionalism, and I'm always able to double check. And I'm always able to actually plug in any paragraph into any AI platform and check for compliance, whether I'm compliant to my clients, to the Law Society, or to the courts.
And I wanted to, sorry, Nick, if you want to mention something, you can, but I just want to also add, when anybody, as lawyers, we're professionals, when we're using any type of AI technology to draft our work, we want to double check that. We don't want to just rely on it because, as a lawyer, you want to double check your work. That's what you're supposed to do in your profession. So this is a way, AI tech is a way to assist you with your practice, to help you know, if you're saying you don't know where to have a starting point to draft your materials, it can be a starting point. Say if you don't know an area of practice that you're familiar with, such as Robbie, he said he had to jump from different areas of law, from litigation of municipal law to employment. He was able to, get his hands started by, asking the Lexis Plus AI questions about it to basically jumpstart and kind of teach himself that. So I feel that with, AI technology, it's very important to make sure you are reviewing your work when you are, doing those searches, just as a lawyer, because that is your professionalism at the end of the day. And to add to a question somebody had about, using a legal related product versus a non-legal related product, that it's really important to note that where is the information coming from, right? So in the past, when AI came into play, it is coming from the internet, Google, anybody can create a website, so it'll pull the information out. When it's a legal related tool, in terms of, you're using Lexis plus AI, for example, it's coming from that database specifically. It's not going to come from the internet where, anybody can create something. So it's going to be a fake case that was presented to you in your response. So it's more so in that sense, right? You want to make sure you're using the correct type of tool to help you assist in the legal world that we're working in. Nick, did you want to add, do you have anything to add to that?
No, not really. I'm just going to say it's a big topic, but I think AI and the legal industry will, in my opinion, become a norm in the future. So I think the Law Society might be a bit behind in terms of how, what the rules are around that. I think they'll come in the future. There'll be more clarity, I think, from the Law Society in general. So I think we'll see more to come.
Thank you so much.
I don't think there's a substitute for hard work. So anytime I'm actually using any AI platform, I make sure I do at least 95% of the work. I'm giving it that raw content. I'm making sure I'm doing the reading. And then I'm using AI to actually check my work or help me look for other angles, polish it. But again, I have to emphasize that it's not a replacement. So I think in the beginning, when we saw AI come out, a lot of people would just be like, okay, draft me this motion, without actually putting in any of the work. And we saw that, okay, that AI would make up fake cases and what have you. So it's important to control at least 95% of what you're feeding into there, so you're compliant with everything that you need to be. And then again, it's just there to enhance your work. It's not there to replace your work. And that's how I utilize this platform.
Okay, so I have another question here. Are there any real life examples you can, give to the audience about your, an actual real life case scenario, Robbie, just like the one you did for the judicial decisions? Anything else they could say as a real life example? And it could be, working on a file. It could be working on doing something else in practice within your firm. Nick, just like how you do, your automated intake, just any sort of real life examples.
So every day is a real life example. So again, I'll just use one client's example that I used AI just yesterday. So we had a bogus claim come against my client. And obviously the typical way to go about it is to bring a motion to have it dismissed. But again, I want to save my client costs. So I just put this simply into Lexis AI Plus. And the one thing I didn't consider, and that many people don't consider, is that under Rule 22.1 in the Rules of Civil Procedure, I can bring an application that actually just asks the court for relief to dismiss this on a frivolous basis. So again, it showed me that this is there so that you do not have to waste your client's money bringing a motion to dismiss a bogus claim. And I didn't know that existed. And then when I spoke to my colleagues about it, they didn't think about it. So again, this is a real life example where I want to save my client money, that I could utilize the platform to actually find other solutions that nobody was really actually thinking about.
And I think like that's where you would have leverage in terms of, like you said, you're working against big law firms sometimes, and it's just you working on the file yourself at your firm. So I think that's a great way also to leverage the use of Lexis plus AI, or just AI in general. Like, so I think that really is beneficial. And Nick, sorry, also, do you have any other examples of real life related that you can say, we're able to save time, or, work on a matter that you had just recently in court?
Yeah, I kind of touched on some of these things. So I use it mainly, as I mentioned, to draft certain litigation-related documents. So to draft pleadings, it produces the first draft, so it saves time in that sense. Also, as I mentioned, the clients, I asked them to produce a narrative of what happened in their situation, and that would involve a table where one column is the date, and the next column beside it is the event. And you can literally just drag and drop that into the AI, and it turns it into paragraphs, like a story, which you can put in your pleadings. So I find it great in that sense, in cutting down the tedium and some of the work. that I would have to do or my staff would have to do. So that's kind of how I've used it. Also, it's good for, if, let's say you're writing articles for your website, it's good for producing a first draft for that. Maybe you want to blog, it'll give you the first draft, and then you can go in and modify it and make it a little more enhanced, because you'll see, at least the general AI tools, the articles are very general. They don't really talk about specific cases or give great examples. So I usually go in and touch up the article by adding some cases or some examples just to make it a little more lively. So it can be really useful for that as well, for writing articles for your website, just blogging.
Thank you so much for that, Nick. I have another question in general. It's basically speaking about, if you could speak about the stigma that still exists in using AI. I know there's a lot of repetition going on with what we can speak about with AI. But yeah, is there any stigmas that you could say that exist with using AI and how to overcome that?
For me, it's not just for the legal world, but just generally, I think AI is something we have to embrace because it's here. And if you don't embrace it, you're going to get left behind. So it's important that you utilize it in an ethical way, and it's here to stay. It's only going to become more integrated into our lives, and it's important to use it how it's meant to be used as an assistant, and not to take our jobs over. So again, if you embrace it, it's here to stay anyways, right? Of course, in the legal field, there are discussions about the ethics behind it, but again, this is a train that's going to be moving forward. So it's either you jump on it or you're going to be left behind.
And just to add to that as well, I know with the Law Society, with, like you said, AI is here, it's going to be here forever. It's the way, the legal world's going to be working now. The Law Society is always going to stay up to date with, the rules or bylaws. So it's a matter of as a lawyer to make sure you're up to date with those rules and bylaws, to make sure you're following them correctly, especially when you're using AI technology, to make sure you're, letting your clients know, there's a possibility you'll be using AI. Because I know the trends are kind of going that route now for for AI and Law Society. But even yourself, Nick, do you have an example that you may want to throw out there as well for any stigmas you may have, kind of encountered yourself or what you see?
I've not really encountered any stigma. So actually, another lawyer told me about how he uses AI to draft pleadings, and I was very skeptical. I was like, no way, and also you have to give the right prompts, at least with the general AI tools. So he kind of told me, and I tried it out, and I agree with him. It worked really nicely. So I wouldn't say stigma, but I myself I think myself pretty technology forward, but I just didn't think at least the general AI tools could be used for lawyers. And then they're not perfect, obviously, and there could be better tools that are lawyer specific. But I think there's just a lot of maybe skepticism that AI can be useful for lawyers, or lawyers are just not informed that it's out there and that can be used for them, or how to use the prompts, because you have to give it certain prompts with at least the general AI tools out there to make the answers suitable for you. So I haven't encountered stigma myself, and I think AI will become more and more prevalent very quickly. So any stigma, if there is any stigma, it's, I think, going to be short-lived, in my opinion.
100%. Just to add to that, I personally feel like when, AI came out in the beginning, I would say maybe a year or two ago, when it first came into the market, and there were cases of, lawyers using it, and some of them actually got, in trouble for it because they weren't using it correctly and they were relying on it. So I think that was a wake-up call in terms of, okay, this technology is here. How do we perfect it? How do we use it appropriately? And we want to make sure that we're using the right tools. And also we want to make sure we're following the Law Society guidelines, right? Depending wherever you're practicing. And I think that's where the confusion may have been, it was a gray area in the beginning, and basically relying on something and not actually reviewing it. That's where you can kind of get in trouble, right? So as a lawyer, AI is not here to make you lazy. It's here to help assist with your practice, to help you, basically sometimes you don't know how to do something, like maybe you want to bring like a motion to court, but you don't know how to approach that. Well, AI is going to help you. You can do your searches there, and you're not able to pick up a phone call and call a lawyer that or a colleague, because everyone's busy now, right? So sometimes you may not be able to rely on a colleague and to ask them how to follow the steps here. Now you can just take your own, due diligence and do your own search to see, what the steps are to bring the certain type of motion, to help you basically draft that to make sure you're following the guidelines. So I feel like the AI technology will be a grateful tool in that sense. Another question that have come in here is, in terms of, we're talking about using AI, do you include in the letter of engagement that you are using AI as a lawyer, like you're going to be using AI, or have you guys, put that into your practice right now, or is it something that you're thinking about doing in the future?
It's not something we've done yet. And again, I'm not using it as a substitute for anything. It's just literally, and just to speak on the previous point, like if you just ask AI, okay, draft this motion for me, and you cut and paste it and you send it off, that's where the issues are gonna happen, right? So again, I'm still doing 95% of the work. It's just there to help me polish the work. So I'm not at that point yet where I'm thinking about putting it like in an engagement letter or in the retainer. But it might be something that we might need to consider in the future.
And also like editing, like I know you can use it to edit the work that you've already drafted to make sure, like you said, just double check and polish it to make sure you're not missing anything. And, because also you can upload what you've worked on and basically double check your work. And maybe you missed a case that you could have used, that it can actually suggest that, hey, there's this case out here that you can actually add to your, brief or whatever motion materials it may be, and so forth. What about yourself, Nick?
We don't have it in our retainer letter. I mean, somebody can put it in if they would like. I just don't see the client really caring if you're using AI or not. At the end of the day, it's your product, how you come up with that product, what tools you use. I don't think the client cares. I think they care that they have great legal representation. And I think they would understand that you're using AI or whatever it is to help get that result. It's fine as long as they get the best result they can get.
Thank you so much, Nick. Another question we have is, Nick, it's in relation to the intake process that you had discussed. Generally speaking, it says, do you have a sense of whether an online intake form is used or usable by elderly people in need of service? I know this is it's not your daily, type of question, but that was one question there.
Yeah, interesting question. So we do commercial litigation. So we don't, I'm not sure what is meant by elderly, first of all, who's elderly. I guess it's people who, let's say, don't have an email or don't use computers. So first of all, most of our clientele are, kind of in the business space, so they're usually not very elderly. But if it is an elderly client, what we can do is I have an assistant who can call them back and she can information the form for them. So I have somebody who can call them and talk to them on the phone and type the information for them. And we actually do that for some clients who sometimes fill out the form, but not great. We'll say, please explain your situation in at least 2 sentences, and they'll just put like 1 sentence, very vague. So we sometimes do call back clients to get more information from them. So it would just be that same process. We would just call back the client, get the information, type it in the form for them.
And Robbie, did you I don't know if you do have a similar type of intake process or,
No. Division in the firm.
Oh, sorry, we couldn't hear you there for 1 second.
I don't have anything to comment on the intact part.
Okay, no problem. There's also another question here that says, okay, this is more of like just a discussion to have here is, with AI technology and, us as being lawyers, what if the public begins believing that spending money on lawyers is useless due to AI? For them? I think it's an interesting question because there is a level of degree of, having a lawyer represent you and once again, using AI to assist in helping polish your work and, doing all that versus, a self-rep trying to use AI, they're not going to be able to have access to a legal AI type of technology. And, there's so much AI out there where it's not giving answers that are legal related. So a lot of non-represented, individuals, they don't know about the system and, the arguments and how it works. So I don't know if you both have any comments to add to that question, but I think it's a very interesting question brought up.
Again, as I mentioned, it's just a tool to enhance. I don't think AI will ever completely replace lawyers. There's so many complex issues involved in many situations, many different parties, many different situations. And AI will never be able to pick up on those nuances. And there will always be a need for lawyers to actually delegate what's going on and figure out these situations. So again, people might try to think that they can input something into AI and think that they're getting the right outcome, but I don't think that will ever be the case.
100%. And sorry, Nick, I see you unmuted there as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this argument has occurred before. I mean, when Google came out, people probably thought, well, I can just search the answer online. And I don't think that reduced the work of lawyers. I don't think there's a ton of people who go, hey, I'm going to search on Google and do it myself instead of hiring a lawyer. So I think it's the same thing here. People might use the AI to understand their issue better and help them work better with a lawyer. But I think if anything, it's maybe going to convince them that they need a lawyer because the AI will start telling them stuff and they'll start getting confused. So yeah, I don't think that's an issue.
Yeah, I think that that's where the clear line needs to be that, okay, yeah, there's AI, but that doesn't mean you don't need a lawyer. It's going to help assist lawyers with their practice. It's not going to take over the legal world, it's just being used to perfect what you're working on and so forth. So I think that's where individuals need to see that there is a difference between AI and being a lawyer, and actually using AI technology for the reason it should be used for. Is there anything else either one of you can add to, the future of AI technology and how you think that it will benefit you as a lawyer with your practice, being a solo practitioner and a small law lawyer, in just generally speaking, for people that are thinking of, getting Lexis Plus AI or any other products, and to see how it'll fit with their practice and benefit them.
So again, as a small law firm, I'm very happy with the platform in the sense that it gives me the power of 10 lawyers, where I'm very confident in the research that's being given to me at my fingertips. And I'm able to see different angles that I haven't seen before. So I believe it's a tool that we need to leverage to actually put us on par with bigger firms and even bigger than them at some point, because again, I think I'm able to disrupt their flow as well by utilizing this technology, because now I'm thinking about angles that they haven't thought about. So as we embrace AI technology, it's here to stay. And I think it's something that you have to take on board and you have to use it for its facilities, whether it's using it as an assistant, polishing your work, or just getting into the deeper work, which is drafting, researching, and figuring out solutions to complex situations.
Thank you, Robbie.
And I think the last point I would say is, at the end of the day, law is a business. And especially for small law firms, every minute we take counts towards something. So we don't have these big budgets that the other big law firms have. So it's important where we put our time and energy into, and we're not wasting endless amount of times on other things. So, and then we're able to build the clients in a more balanced way. So I think the more you embrace this, the better off you'll be financially as well.
And Nick, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Sorry, Tina, do you mind repeating the question?
Yeah, more so I need advice on, to any lawyer that is thinking about, using AI in their practice and how it will benefit them in terms of, practice, just the outcome they're going to get, for what they're going to be using.
Yeah, I would say just try it out, see for yourself. I think lawyers have different personalities. Some might find it more useful than others. But I would say try it out because it might be more useful than you expect. So it's worth giving it a shot. I just want to mention, for me, I don't, it doesn't cut down right now a ton of my time. I just use it for just some key things. I think in the future it'll get better. Maybe it'll be more useful. So it's not like it's going to replace you or anything, or you still gonna have to do a lot of work and to make a lot of legal analysis and decision making. You still have to talk to clients, put things together, but it helps you with some specific key things. So I definitely would say try it out and see how it can help you, especially with some small stuff like, hey, let me see if it can help me with this little thing or that little thing, and see how you can implement it. Right now, for me, it's just another tool I use. But it's not replacing you. It's not going to solve everything for you. So you still have to do a lot of legal work, a lot of legal analysis, talk to clients, do a ton of stuff, but try it out for some small pieces of your work and see how it works for you.
I think we'll also have time for one more question, and this is actually ties into the previous question we were discussing about using AI and how a client or a non-client may want to use AI and say that I don't need a lawyer. This question is, how do you deal with a client who uses AI themselves or to get ideas about their case and then suggest that there's other ways to fight the case. So before I pass it over to you both, I know I've seen this happen. It's been brought up to me too. And I just sit there and I'm like, you know what? No, like there's too much out there on the internet that you can't rely on it, but that's what's happening now. How would you overcome that? And has there been a situation that both of you've either been in terms of this type of a question?
I think the best comparison is with doctors. Obviously, sometimes we have symptoms, we Google them, and then we think we have this advanced stage of some disease or whatever, but it just ends up being a cold, right? So it's the same analysis, right? At the end of the day, they can Google AI, whatever they want, but it might not be the actual solution to what they're looking for. And it will never be a replacement for the advice and all the training and schooling and experience that we've done over the years. So they could try to find out and use that prescription in the courts, but let's see how far that would actually get them. So again, I would just use the doctor analysis where you go to your doctor and you tell them, okay, I Googled my symptoms, this is what I think I have. And then we already know that situation where the doctor's like, okay, that's enough internet for you for today, right? So that would be my answer to that.
Thank you so much, Robbie. And Nick, do you have anything to add to that as well?
I mean, I haven't had that happen to me, but if it does, I would just explain to the client why, my analysis is a certain way, and why maybe the AI analysis is not correct, or why it's not the full picture. Just like anything else. I mean, clients even without AI, they say certain things. They go, my neighbor's tree fell on my property. I want to sue them for $1 million for pain and suffering. They say all sorts of stuff. So you have to just analyze what they're saying sometimes, even if it's not correct or not applicable, and break it down for them and explain, your analysis of what they're saying, just like anything else. So I don't see it as a big threat or a big problem. But again, I haven't really encountered this.
And Nick, to add to that, that's a perfect example where you stated that, even before AI came into place, that people were doing this from the get-go, from before, doing their own research. Hey, this happened to my friend and they got this. I always also say to myself that, it's always case per case, just like with the doctor example, that, if there's an outcome, if somebody has some sort of diagnosis, you're not going to have the same diagnosis, right? Or that your outcome is not going to be the same. It's always case per case. So you look at the facts and the individual in general. So you may not get what somebody else has or the outcome, but it's there. And I feel like it's better to say that from the start versus not mentioning it from the get-go, because then it gives the clients a different, perspective on, I'm going to be able to get this because, somebody else I know was able to get this outcome. So I think those are all great answers there. And we have a lot of questions, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to answer them all today. So if there are some questions here, we may at the end send off answers as an email document later on. And there was a lot of questions about seeing a demo. If you are interested in booking a demo with Lexis Plus AI, you can actually reach out to us, and we'll send you a link that you can click on, and you can book a demo that way. And you can see the product and see how it's used as well. Okay, and thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Robbie and Nick, for speaking on today's webinar, and everyone else joining today's webinar. We hope that you're able to get some knowledge about AI technology and how you can use it within your practice, or if you are already using it, maybe you've got other examples on how you can use it to leverage your practice yourself. Thank you so much, everyone.